You want to make an impact in the boardroom. Here's how to own the room. In this episode, I'll be sharing principles, techniques, on how to actually take charge in the boardroom and own the conversation and influence board leaders and directors. If you're a CEO or a leader and you face decision makers, I want to learn the strategies how to command the room. This is the video for you. Thank you very much for joining me in this new episode of the CEO Leadership Series. In this episode, I'll be looking at how to influence decision makers and how to achieve boardroom confidence. If you ever have to speak to stakeholders, boardroom directors, or decision makers, there is a way to achieve confidence. There's a way to influence decision makers. In these videos, we're going to be looking at it, what you can do to ensure that you're able to get their attention, you're able to share your strategies, and you're able to communicate effectively. It's all about confidence, setting the right stage, and being prepared for what is to come, and delivering the presentation that captivates the audience and makes you be able to communicate with style as a leader. So imagine a CEO that is faced with a key boardroom decision. A scenario where a lot of emotions is raging in the room. There are a lot of conflicting visions and pressure from different camps in the room. And your position, your career is at a strategic point. How do you handle that potential deadlock? Where you want to seek unanimous, a general support, complete support from the board, and you want to be able to do this methodically and present clear explanations about your vision, create a narrative that everyone in the room will rally behind. This isn't magic. There's a way to do it, and it's called strategic communication in action. So in this video, we're going to be diving into it. We're going to be looking at how to achieve three things. Project yourself as a leader, be impactful, ensure that you are direct and precise, and you're able to achieve your goal of getting your decision approved. So once again, you're welcome to this edition of Boardroom Confidence, how to influence decision makers. This is the episode 8 of the CEO Leadership Strategy Series. So in this series, we're going to be looking at it in 4 approaches, 4 sections of the video. I'm going to be introducing the concept. I'll define what boardroom confidence is and how you can influence decision makers. We'll take a deep dive into the concept and break it down. Then we'll look at case studies. Look at case studies that help us to bring this discussion home after the deep dive. After looking at that, then I'm going to be asking questions. Questions that have been curated to ensure that I'm able to explain some key principles on the topic. At the end of the day, we have a call to action. What can you do to actually implement this strategy in your leadership? Remember, you don't need to be a CEO. All you need to be a leader to learn from this principle and start implementing it and start using it to achieve influence and getting your message across as a leader. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Olumola, an executive coach and business consultant. So we're going to be discussing how to achieve boardroom confidence, how to influence decision makers in this episode 8 of the CEO Leadership Series. So as we go into the deep dive, the first concept we'll be looking at is the concept of communicating clearly and succinctly. You want to make sure that you communicate clearly and succinctly to your leaders, to your boardroom members, or to stakeholders that are listening to you in a conversation. And how do you do this? You want to make sure that you are able to be direct and precise in your communication. Avoid ambiguities, vagueness, beating around the bush. Go straight to the point, be direct, be precise. Also, as a leader, you want to avoid jargons that may obscure the major message you're trying to pass across. Avoiding jargons is very, very important because at times leaders think that they have to speak in highly technical terms and speak a lot of big English, big grammar. And at times you don't need that. It's better you are clear, you are simple, you are direct, you are precise. Avoid jargons and make sure that you go straight to your message and you hit the nail on the head and you're straightforward and simple. So how do you do that? You want to make sure that you use short, impactful sentences. You want to make sure that you use sentences that, explain the concept you're trying to, pass across. You put it across as simple. It's a big idea, but you want to emphasize the key areas of that big idea. And you now follow with supporting details. For example, ask your audience, what's one word that sums up your approach and your clarity in the communication? If before you go into a meeting with key stakeholders, look at the words that you can use that summarizes what you're trying to describe, what you're trying to pass across, and what you're trying to get them to understand in that conversation, in that presentation, in that meeting, in that pitch deck. Make sure that you present things in clear language that is simple, that is direct, that is impactful. The next concept I'll be sharing is to look at how to leverage data. As a leader, you have to be able to leverage data with compelling narratives to support your story, to support your message as you, meet and present to key stakeholders or decision makers. The power of data cannot be overemphasized. The power of data is great. So you want to make sure that you explain data to build credibility. The data you have should be able to support your claims, should be able to support your narrative, should be able to support your strategy. Explain this data in clear terms and show how these data points actually can transform the business or transform the opinions when you place it in the right context. So you want to make sure you use data correctly and let it do the explaining for you. The next item is to create a narrative. Create a narrative that is strong, that is powerful. You can use storytelling, in a boardroom setting, in a key meeting with stakeholders. You can paint a story and tell a story how what you want to achieve has happened in a scenario before and create that sense of nostalgia, that impact that you want to paint in their mind with that story. Use part of the raw data you have in this same story to illustrate both the problem and the solution. If you want to solve a problem as a CEO, you want to implement a new strategy, or you want an approval for a new direction, you want to be able to explain how with data, how going to that new direction will change the narrative or will help to solve present problems and create new opportunities for the organization or for the company. And as you do this, that creates a very, very, very powerful picture in their minds as they listen to you. So you want to be able to use the power of data and want to be able to craft a very strong narrative to support your claims and to make sure that you drive your point home. The third point we'll be looking at is what are the techniques you can use to control your narrative as a speaker, as a leader, as somebody that's trying to influence the room and actually make sure that you actually pass your message across. The first technique is to stay in command. Stay in command of the situation, stay in command of the presentation, stay in command of the discourse. You don't want to look as if you are afraid. You want to look as if you are not confident in yourself. And you stay focused on the message. You stay focused on the topic, and you don't get easily distracted. You have to understand that active listening is very, very important. At some point in your presentation, they're going to ask you questions, and you must be able to rephrase. Number one, before you even rephrase, you must be able to listen actively, because the kind of people that are in that room, power players, they do not suffer fools. They will not give you, most of the time, a second of chance to make a first impression. So you want to make sure that you listen clearly, and make sure that when you listen, when they're asking questions, you're able to make a rebuttal with clear explanations, devoid of jargons, use your data, and make sure you're able to explain areas where they need clarification. So being able to frame questions when you ask and explain it and guide the discussions is also very, very important. Then I would like to introduce the pyramid principle. There is a principle called the pyramid principle. And the idea is to make sure that you start with your main conclusion. When you want to present a concept, when you want to present a solution, you want to present a roadmap, start with your main conclusion. Then you now layer it and back it up with supporting arguments. And finally, you now bring in your data to support your claims. So you want to establish what you want to achieve with what you are presenting, or with a strategy, with a direction. And number two, you back it up with supporting arguments and the data to make sure that you actually cement the narrative you're trying to paint. And for example, if you're proposing a new market strategy, you can start by stating the strategy's benefits. What will this new strategy, this new approach, this new step? This is the main point. How will you help the company? How will you help the customer? Where will you take us to after implementing this new strategy? Then when you do that, follow up with the data. Make sure you share the data to validate your potential points and support your points. Then you can also share market research and evidence to show that this has been done in certain scenarios, in certain climes, in certain regions, in certain countries, certain companies, and these are the results of the things that have worked, right? So I want you to think about these things very well. Have we ever used a structured framework in a high-pressure meeting, like a board meeting or a key stakeholders meeting like this? And how did you change the outcome of your presentation and what you're expecting to achieve from it? So think about these things. Look at the previous scenarios where you've had to present to a team of key stakeholders, maybe a board of directors or a group of investors, and you want to look at it. Did you use this framework? If you haven't, you have to go back and make sure that you reframe your presentation and make sure you adopt this concept going forward. And as you do that, you're going to see a lot of improvement in what you do. The idea is to be able to present your story or your approach or this new strategy in a way that is compelling, backed up by data, paint the picture of how problems are going to be solved with this new approach, and get their buy-in by making sure that you explain everything that they ask you in terms of loopholes in your presentation, in terms of what if and what not. If this happens, how are you going to respond to it? You want to make sure that you have that narrative that explains and addresses all their concerns. You can't do that, like I said earlier, without listening actively. because there'll be times in the presentation they will get back to you and ask you, how do you want to do this? How does it work? Those are very good defining moments for you. You want to make sure that you are listening very clearly to the questions that have been asked so that you can respond, and you respond with clear, simple explanations, and you back it up with data. Data is going to help you to be able to show that this has been done before. These are the outcomes, and this is scientific. This is real life, and this is backed up by evidence, as against emotions, your own leanings, your own cravings, and your own sentiments. Data will help you to, create that clarity that I'm talking about what has been tested, what has been proven, and I have what I can use to back it up. That's what it does for you. So those are the principles you want to apply in presenting your narrative and in discussing. So we're going to be looking at 2 case studies. The first case study is a story of a company where the CEO was able to turn around, a boardroom scenario, and unite a divided board. And the idea in this case study is the fact that you're going to be faced with divergent views when you face very key stakeholders that are highly opinionated, very experienced, confident in their own skin, and can take a firm decision irrespective of what other people are thinking in the room. So you are facing a team of people like this. You want to be able to have the skills to be able to, bring all of them together, present your topic or whatever you want to get approved in a way that is clear, very, very unambiguous, direct, supported with strong data, and be able to respond to their questions. So when you have a situation whereby things are not going well, like in this case of this company, the board was divided over a decision. People were on one side, people on the other side. What the CEO did was, the first thing he did was to simplify data. Data he had prepared into bullet points in a simple manner to illustrate the process, to illustrate the steps in which real-life data and evidence show how a problem was solved, step by step, and similar company also achieved the result it's trying to achieve. Then he crafted a narrative that connected these data points to the company's and the board's long-term vision. So you must be able to bring those things home to you, to your company. What are you trying to achieve? And how this data you're sharing, how is it going to actually help to tell that story of what has been done? For example, if you're a company, you're just starting a business and industry, and you want to be able to benchmark against a leader in that industry, and you want the board to be able to approve devoted resources and critical milestones to achieving that goal, to be able to replicate the same success story that a company has already achieved. What you want to do is to be able to get data from your industry about the successes of this benchmark that you have chosen to use, a benchmark of success, a company or a competitor that has already achieved what you're trying to achieve. Get the data, signifying milestones, what they did, how they did it, and how they achieved it. That's number one. Then tie this data to your own company's vision, long-term vision that has been set or approved by the board, and create a narrative that shows to them that if we're able to mirror the same data, if we're able to mirror the same achievements with critical resource input at different milestones in our journey, we will also be able to replicate the same story and have the same impact or similar impact. So you can see how you're able to connect the company's long-term vision to the data showing what has been achieved in the same sector by a similar competitor or a similar company and use this data to actually marry the long-term strategy of the company and get their buy-in. That's how to do it. And when you finish doing that, questions are going to come to you. You want to make sure that you're able to engage the board members or the key decision makers in targeted questions. And you're able to explain wherever gaps, that may exist in your strategy. They are very experienced people that are going to point you out. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? You want to be able to respond and with data, create that narrative, explain, and also share experiences of where it has been done before. If it's something that has not been done before, you want to be able to use data to simulate what will likely happen in a given scenario, giving key attributes and inputs that are going to achieving those goals. And with good communication and explanation, you'll be able to get that narrative out and achieve the good, communication you want to achieve as a leader or a CEO. So you want to be able to shift from being in the opposition, because you're presenting an idea that is new, you want to get a buy-in. You want to shift from being an opposition to being enthusiastic and unify support of the room. And you can only do this if you demonstrate the power of clarity and strategic storytelling. You must be able to do that. You must be able to paint that story, tell that story of what has been done before and what that impact of that new strategy approach is going to have on the business, is going to have on the customer, is going to have on the bottom line, is going to have on achieving the strategic long-term vision of the company. That's one way to do it. Another scenario is to, look at how, in this case study, this second case study, how a CEO was able to secure critical funding for a startup, through a boardroom finesse. So a startup company seeking to raise a huge amount of money, face a lot of divergent views in the boardroom. And, what the CEO did was to present an example from a smaller company where the CEO, was able to secure fighter funding, for the company, for that project. So he was able to share with them the challenges in that industry, how they approached it with limited resources, despite the skepticism from the board members, how they were able to, navigate that scenario and raise the money and solve that problem and achieve the impact they wanted to achieve in that industry. So what are the things that CEO did? Number one, he utilized data, presented key metrics in a digestible format, showing that if we're able to do this, this will be the outcome. If we're able to do this, this will be the outcome. And he supported it with data from the industry, showing successes, what has been achieved. We have to realize something that, yes, there are times that you'll be involved in something novel that nobody has been done before. But quite a number of steps you're going to take, you find out that there are a lot of learnings you can take from people that have achieved those same things before. You don't have to actually be doing something new all the time. There are a lot of things that have been done. You just want to do it. You want to refine it. You want to make it better. And what's what innovation is all about. Nobody came with all the knowledge in the world. Whatever you're trying to do, somebody has done something similar that you can extrapolate from, refine, and make better. For example, Elon Musk did not create the electric car. The electric car has been created. What he did was that with Tesla, he took what has been done, went and refined it with his team and brought out something better from what has already been developed before. So you want to utilize data. In that room, as you're making those, and you're discussing, you're making your presentation, you want to make sure you connect emotionally with everybody in the room, the key decision makers. And how do you do that? Make sure that in your presentation, in your discussion, You are painting a picture of a shared vision for the company, not your own personal vision, what you want to achieve. Whatever you want to achieve must be in line with the shared vision for the company. And the future that you are painting must resonate with that shared vision, with the board or with the critical stakeholders you're trying to get approval from. So whatever solution you are bringing to the table that needs approval, that needs support, must be in line with the shared vision of the company, the shared vision of the organization, and make sure that you paint that scenario in a way that they see themselves in it and they're able to argue with you. And that's the sort of emotional intelligence. Whatever you're trying to put across, connect it with the shared vision and make sure that you bring them to see the big picture and how everybody is able to help the company to achieve that vision. Then you want to make sure that you control the conversation, anticipate counter arguments, and address them before they can derail your meeting. In preparing for a meeting, you want to make sure that you create the scenarios of a devil's advocate. What if they say this? What if they say that? Because think of anything negative, think of anything, that can come out as a counter argument. It will probably occur in that meeting. How are you going to respond to each counter argument? You should be prepared. So you want to make sure that you do your preparation very well. You can have a team or some friends, discuss it with them, and ask them to act as the devil's advocate. If you don't believe in this vision, you want to kill it, what are the things you're going to say? So that you can respond and support your information with data, connect it to the shared vision of the company, and make sure that you're able to control the narrative. So for this company, the funding was eventually secured, and the board became a very strong strategic partner moving forward. This is very key for startup founders. They are finding companies, and at the point you're pitching to investors, stakeholders that have not done this thing before. They are willing to stake their investment. They are willing to actually take up risk, to support your vision. You have to be able to explain things to them with data. Show how powerful your solutions are and the problems it's going to address. Paint a picture with data, what has been done before that is similar to what you're trying to achieve. And bring them back to seeing how achieving that goal is going to help align and achieve the company's vision. When they come to that point, then support it with data, show them the endpoints, and make sure that you respond to every counter argument properly, and you'll be able to achieve the goal at the end of the day. It is good to have a very objective board that is not a rubber stamp where people come in with their A game. They are very individualistic, they're highly opinionated, because you get the best from the wealth of experience, from the objectivity of such people. It's very important that you don't expect that people will just approve what you bring to the table because they like you, they like your face. No, you must be able to demonstrate mastery in peace, bringing down a very complex subject, breaking it down for them, backing up with data, tying it with the long-term strategy and vision of the company, and getting their buy-in at the end of the day. So with these two case studies, you can see that it's always challenging when you are meeting very divergent views in a room, very experienced people, highly opinionated, they've been there, they've done it. So they come with many years of experience to say, I believe this, I don't believe that. It's your job to be able to bring all these things together, break it down, support your arguments with data, tie it with the vision, the strategy, the long-term vision of the company, and get their buy-in and get their support and move ahead. So those are the strategies you can use as practice in those two stories to achieve what you want to achieve. If you If you implement these things properly, you'll be able to actually get the buy-in and the support you require, from any group of stakeholders or from the board. So we've come to the question and answer session of this video. And the first question I'll be answering is, how do I ensure that my message remains clear when boardroom dynamics becomes chaotic? How do I ensure that my message remains clear when boardroom dynamics becomes chaotic? At times, there can be a lot of politics on a board. People come to a meeting deciding that this idea, this CEO or this leader is bringing to us for approval. I'm going to kill it. I don't agree with it, especially when there are camps, on the board or among the group of stakeholders. Some people may be for your prayers, some people may be against it. So how are you going to make sure that you maintain clarity when there is chaotic, the boardroom is chaotic? And my answer to that is simple. Stick to your core message. Make sure that you stick to your core message. Don't get distracted. Don't get derailed. And outline your points very clearly, And if the conversation is trying to stray, somebody's trying to take you off tangent, steer them back, with poise, with emotional intelligence, summarizing the key takeaways, what is going to be achieved, what are the benefits, what are the things that align with the long-term strategy of the company. And if you are presenting, if you're using PowerPoint, make sure that you're able to use bullet points that are very clear. Because most people don't have time to read so many densely, put together information. Make sure that your points are clearly listed, and you can use visual aids, diagrams, pictures to hence reinforce, what you're trying to talk about. So in summary, stick to your core message, outline your points. If you're using PowerPoint, you can use bullet points that are very clear. Summarize your key takeaways. And if discussions veers away, politely try and bring them back to the topic. That's how you can, remain clear when a boardroom becomes chaotic. I would like to add also that remain very polite. Avoid nonverbal gestures, body language that shows that you are not happy, that shows that you are offended, that shows that you're angry. You will never have a second opinion for a first impression. So make sure that you remain calm, regardless of, the counter arguments or the emotions that may be in the room. Remain polite, remain respectful, and steer them back to the topic. So the second question I'll be answering is, if a board member challenges my proposal with a contradictory data, what am I going to do? Or if it's not a boardroom situation, for example, if you are presenting to a group of stakeholders or a key client, a prospective client is about to make a decision on your service. If that person challenges me with a proposal that has a contradictory data, how do I respond? So what we want to do is I want to make sure you are prepared in advance before you go to any meeting. Understand your own data that you are coming to use to support your argument. You have to have prepared thoroughly. You must have mastery of what you are coming to talk about. Make sure that you also prepare for possible counter arguments that are going to come, because they're going to come. There's nothing you can do about it. They're going to come. So when you're faced with those challenges, acknowledge the point. Don't be evasive about it. Then seamlessly, you want to integrate additional data that you have brought to the table and help use that data to refine your proposal and explain clearly to them, why your own approach remains valid, and you maintain composure as you actually tackle these counter arguments. Anybody has the right to counter your claims, to counter your approach or your strategy. There's nothing wrong with it. You have to demonstrate mastery, that you understand what you're talking about, and demonstrate how you're sure of that. For example, there was a time I was at a presentation, and we're bidding for a contract, and we have set our fees, we have projected our fees. And the prospective client brought up a counter argument that we have other providers that are willing to offer this service at 40% of the cost, 40% lower than the cost that you are projecting. So why shouldn't we go with them? If they are cost drivers, they're able to maintain their cost drivers better, they are more efficiently run. It means that it's either you are more wasteful in your approach, that was what the client was saying to me, or you are not cost leaders in the industry. So what I tried to do in response to that was to let them know the basis for even computing the cost in the industry. And this industry was in health insurance industry. To let them know that costs are not arbitrarily determined by a company, in order to win a bid. Costs are designed and are assessed and are calculated using actuarial principles of insurance to actually come out with premiums for plans that we charge. So what it means is that if everybody applies the same actuarial principles and costing for the same service, for the same benefit, we should come to about the same price. And what I did was, I now use example of other leading competitors that have been around for longer than we have been around, the company I represented, and that had similar pricing for the same benefit I come to present, showing some form of validation for my client to say this pricing was actually determined, professionally done, and we are not in any way just trying to win the business by giving discounts. So I was able to show and benchmark with other two leading competitors in that same space, that they cannot say that they don't know what they're doing. So that way I was able to say that, yes, you'll have gotten a cheaper quote from this company that's trying to get a business with a 40% discount. But look at these other competitors in this industry. They have a very good track record. They have very, very good experience and results in the industry, like us. And they've been around for longer. You see that our plans are in a way uniform to their own, and the pricing is consistent, showing professionalism, showing consistent in applying professional approach to the pricing. And let them realize that I could have also reduced the price to get a business, but it will not be sustainable at the end of the day. When it's time to pay claims, it will be challenging to do so. This way, I was able to bring out data to show that, yes, it's possible for this price to be lower. I also was able to support with benchmark to say, using sound professional principles, leading competitors that you cannot disapprove of, also have results clearly similar to ours. What it means is that we're trying to maintain standard, provide the best service at the best quality, and not just present cheaper plans for the sake of winning the business. And the clients had everything because they knew that it is true, but that also compared the prices. And those other companies also had good ratings, just like us. And they could see some consistency in the pricing. And it was obvious that this other outlier were just trying to get their attention for getting business. So they were left with the option, go for who is cheapest, or people that have shown consistent over the years to present service with good value, with good quality. At the end of the day, because we met all the criteria and we're able to demonstrate mastery in that presentation, we eventually got the business. Not because we presented a lower price, we're able to support the argument to saying that quality and price go together. And we're able to benchmark with other leading competitors with similar benefits that have good track record to say that our pricing is consistent with the market experience, and with what also market leaders are doing. And they were able to put their trust in us. And of course, we did not disappoint. We went on to hold that business for 8 years running till I left that company as a CEO. So that's how you respond to contradictory data, and that's how you manage that kind of counter argument. The third question I'll be answering is, how can I use the pyramid principle effectively in a limited time? So what you want to do is to start your conclusion first to grab the attention of your audience. Because the pyramid, if you remember what the pyramid is, so you start with the conclusion to grab the attention. Then you follow up that conclusion with 2 or 3 supporting points, and end it with evidence, detailed evidence, data to back it up. So start with what your conclusion is, what your goal is, what your solution is, what your endpoint is, what your visioning will be the end of this new strategy or this proposal you have brought. If you're selling to a business, you want to tell them what the experience will be at the end of the day, what would they want to have achieved doing business with you. Then you support it with detailed evidence and data. Once you do this, you want to this provides very clear hierarchical structure, that your stakeholders will appreciate, because you are giving them the end point, the end result, then you are supporting it with the data that is required to actually make them understand, what the outcomes would be for that situation. So the first question is, what techniques help in controlling the narrative during a heated discussion? What techniques helps in controlling a narrative during a heated discussion? And from my own experience, I would say is active listening. When a discussion is heated, don't respond to the emotion in the room. Stay calm, listen to what everybody is saying, and when you finish listening, acknowledge their concerns. Don't dislodge it. Don't disregard it. Acknowledge their concerns. Then you will frame the discussion around your main objective, what you are trying to achieve, And as you summarize, you want to make sure that you tie what you're trying to present with the long-term vision and strategy of the company, so that you let them see why your own approach aligns with the vision and strategy of the company. But listen actively, acknowledge their concerns. It's very, very suicidal to dismiss people's concern when they raise a counter argument. They may be wrong, they may not be correct, they may not have all the facts, but don't just dismiss them. Please, I appreciate what you're trying to say. I understand your concerns are this and this, but in line with the company strategy, in line with what is happening in the market, in line with the trajectory, this is a better way to look at it, because at the end of the day, we take this approach, we'll be able to achieve our own goals and also make the impact. No, so you make sure that you don't dismiss what they're saying. I say, well, what's this one saying? What's it saying? It doesn't make sense. No, acknowledge that it's genuine, and also now present your own points aligned with the overall structure of the company. And when you do that, you'll be able to mitigate the disruptions in the room and get everybody to see the way forward and get everyone to align. So the last question I'll be answering is, how can I balance storytelling with data presentation without overwhelming the board or the stakeholders? So what you want to do is that your narrative should guide the data. The data should not be the one talking. You should have a narrative, some bullet points, some description, some explanation that guide the data you have shared. I want to make sure that the data is simple enough, and you want to choose like 1 or 2 critical data points to now illustrate your story. If you overload your presentation with too many data, too many statistics, that people will not be able to summarize, your presentation is no longer simple. It's become complicated and to become less persuasive. So for your presentation to be very persuasive, make sure that the data set you are showing is not too much. Use narrative, use explanation and discourse to summarize what you have in the data, so that the data can be guided by these summaries, explanations that you have done, and it's easy for them to understand and assimilate. That's how to use data in a boardroom situation or to critical stakeholders, decision makers, and to make sure that it's not overwhelming for them. So if you are here at this point in this video, I'd like to appreciate you as we're about to round up at our conclusion and call to action. And I'd like to say that in summarizing this video today and this episode of the CEO Leadership Strategy Series, the Boardroom Confidence, how to influence decision makers, I'd like to remind you of these steps that we have learned today. The first is that clarity is key. Speak succinctly and avoid unnecessary jargons in your presentation. Number two, use data-driven narratives. Combine factual evidence with a compelling story that aligns with the vision of the company. Then number three, control the narrative. Use structured frameworks like the pyramid principle, where you start with your conclusion and you now support it with evidence and data. So you use structured frameworks like the pyramid principle to guide and dominate the conversation. And finally, I'd like to encourage you that remember that boardroom success is not just about you having a great idea. It's about you presenting that great idea. So you may have a great idea, but you must know how best to present that great idea to get the buy-in of stakeholders. So I want you to tag somebody you know that needs this message and share this message with them. I also want you to share your best boardroom tip that you have used that has worked for you. And let's learn together as we elevate the way to deal with decision makers, and how to achieve boardroom confidence and how to influence decision makers, in the room. I'd like to thank you for joining me in this video. Boardroom confidence, influencing decision makers, how to influence decision makers with boardroom confidence. I'd like to thank you very much for, your time on this video. I will be expecting your comments, your suggestions on how to make these videos better, and even topics that you want me to share from my own experience or popular topics that may resonate with what is going on right now globally in the economy and the business world. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So don't forget to tag someone that needs this video, like this video, share it, and also subscribe, and also share with us how you have used any of these boardroom tips, and it has worked for you. And as you do that, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.